Why did Lois Lerner's computer crash 10 days after she was asked for her email surrounding the IRS targeting of conservatives? Why did the contracted archive company Sonasoft stop archiving Lerner's emails the exact dates in question? And why does Lois Lerner continue to plead the fifth? IRS Commissioner John Koskinen has answers but doesn't seem to think he owes any to the American people. Republicans like Darrell Issa are getting frustrated.
I subpoenaed you here tonight because, frankly, I'm sick and tired of your game playing in response to congressional oversight. You testified under oath in March that you would produce all of Lois Lerner's emails subpoenaed by this committee. Commissioner, at a minimum, you did not tell the whole truth that you knew on that day. We have a problem with you, and you have a problem with maintaining your credibility.
Trey Gowdy did a masterful job dismantling the commission. Here's a few seconds of a 5-minute pounding.
You have already said multiple times today that there was no evidence that you found of any criminal wrongdoing. I want you to tell me what criminal statutes you've evaluated.
I have not looked at any.
Well, then how can you possibly tell our fellow citizens that there's no criminal wrongdoing if you don't even know what statutes to look at?
Because I've seen no evidence that anyone consciously...
Well, how would you know what elements of the crime existed? You don't even know what statutes are at play.
Amazingly, Democrats didn't seem to care that the IRS, the most feared agency to the regular folks, may be hiding a corruption that leads all the way to the White House. The Dems instead used their allotted time to apologize.
Therefore, I begin my series of questions simply by offering you an apology. I believe you deserve one.
I don't think I've seen a display of this kind of disrespect in all the time I've been here in Congress, and it's unfortunate that anybody would have to be subjected to it.
I appreciate you coming into this institution, giving it the best you got, and then having to come in here and go through this hell.
Badgering this commissioner, as virtually every member on the Republican side has done, is shameful. And it's got to stop. Or else I'm telling you, one member here is going to walk out and not return.
Oh, please. Bob, why are Democrats okay with covering up a conspiracy that may lead all the way to the big house, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania?
You ought to be careful making that comment about may lead to the White House. There's not a scintilla of evidence that that's the case. So I would be a little careful about saying that.
If we had all the evidence.
Is there a cover-up somewhere in the IRS? Obviously, in my mind, there is. I mean, I think the most damning part of this is her taking the fifth. When that began, from that point forward, there seemed to be a trigger of events that, whether she was responsible for it alone or whatever, but to suggest that somehow it's a White House cover-up
he said, I don't know, 20 times. I'm not sure. Trey Gowdy points out that he didn't even look up the statutes. So Koskinen
I will say this. I agree with what the Democrats said. I've never heard a committee of Congress be that rough on somebody.
Would you be wasting your time apologizing to this guy?
Okay, you got to ask, why are they kissing up to the guy? Because he's a donor. They're not going to go after him. It's like a hooker going after your pimp. I haven't seen this kind of cover-up since Robin Williams played Mrs. Doubtfire.
Did you work?
And it shows.
Did you work on that all day?
No, I'm going to work on you all day. What does it take for the mainstream media to care? Does the IRS have to execute Tea Partiers for them to notice? Or will the New York Times say, oh, I hope those bullets are recyclable? This shows the IRS scandal with the VA stuff, with the POW stuff. It shows that every part of the Obama apple is bad. You used to be able to eat around the worm. Now it's all worm and no apple.
Dana, you pointed out that, well, maybe you didn't point, maybe I heard the guy, that smile, that arrogance, that contemptuous smile he had going on there.
Right, so Koskinen sits there like butter would not melt, okay? And that, I think, also is the other thing that is really irritating people, not just the guys on the committee, but people watching at home thinking, how can he sit there? But the thing is, I think Greg points out something. He's a big-time political donor. He knew he was doing his public service, but by public he does not mean working for all of us. He means working for the Democrats. And that's what I think is amazing, that think of the position that President Obama's administration has put the Democrats in an election year where they have a tough situation with their own turnout anyway. The Democrats are now in a position of bending over backwards to defend the IRS. I mean, that is quite astounding, but they got to hand it to their loyalty. They are walking in lockstep to try to protect the IRS from what I think everybody, including even the media talking this morning, all the talking heads are like, okay, we know obviously there is a stinking fish. Mm-hmm. And where does that lead? I mean, I would, if I were the Democrats, I'd be blaming the Obama White House for putting them in this position.
Can you name me one political point of view who never gave money? One? I mean, go back to your own.
I'm sure there's probably many.
I'll bet you there are not.
I bet you there are.
Well,
how about I'll be one?
Regardless,
I never donated anything.
Yeah, but you didn't have to be confirmed.
You're so selfish.
Right,
I did get confirmed by the Obama administration.
Let's not derail this. Let's stay on this particular scandal.
Well, you're the one who raised the thing about the money.
Arrogant, contemptuous, or strategic. If you control the facts and the information, you kind of control the debate and the people.
That's right. So when we talk about the NSA spying on average Americans, and the administration says, well, we're doing it for national security purposes, that is why that's the second biggest scandal. Because in a normal administration, the IRS would just be functioning the way that it's supposed to function. So we're supposed to believe that the Obama administration that is using the IRS to target conservative groups, that is also collecting data on every single American, is not going to use that type of information for political reasons. You would be completely foolish and naive. And if this were a Republican president, we would be on the road to impeachment. I mean, think about Rosemary Woods, President Nixon's secretary. Everybody knew who Rosemary Woods was, the woman who supposedly accidentally, there she is, doing the Rosemary Reach, trying to demonstrate to the media how she was just happenstance deleting that tape that everyone was obsessed with in the country. I mean, she was the fall girl for a president of the United States, and the media was obsessed with it. Everybody in the United States of America knew who this woman was. Now you have the death of legitimate journalism by the press saying, we're not going to report on this. And you know what? They're just as bad, because the IRS targets people financially. The media targets people with their pens or their computers. They do the same thing. That's why they think this is okay.
Let me ask you a question. With all due respect, you've got to be unbelievably naive to believe that IRSs and other administrations have not targeted people. I mean, but not at this level, maybe.
Bob, they've admitted as much that they targeted, and they're not allowed to do that. They can't pick and choose.
I understand they're not allowed to do it, but to suggest that the IRS is a pure institution that doesn't target. I don't know about you. Why do I get audited during Republican administration, not during Democrat?
They targeted conservatives before a re-election campaign.
When I was a child, my mother said, just because other people are doing it doesn't make it right.
Okay, well, that's fine. I understand that.
So this is wrong.
Also, the destruction of evidence is an obstruction of justice, which then takes it to the next level. And so that the political appointee that acts like he doesn't have to answer any questions to the Republican congressman. You have Democrats that are, I think this is a path that will backfire on the Democrats.
Can we do
in
this?
November, at least.
Can we move on to this one right here? See this in the New York Times front cover? You don't see any mention of this. No mention of the IRS scandal. You need to go 19 pages in to find the story. But even liberal talking head Mark Halperin, along with the National Journal editorial director Ron Fournier, want answers.
I think with a different administration, one that was a Republican administration, this story would be a national obsession. And instead, it's getting coverage here and a few other places.
A year ago, exactly tomorrow, I called for a special prosecutor in this case while giving the president the benefit of the doubt. I now realize how naive I was to give the administration the benefit of the doubt. This needs to be investigated by an independent prosecutor.
Yeah.
All right, Ange, you want to take this one?
Special prosecutor Ron Fournier is absolutely right. And also, you heard Trey Gowdy in that exchange that you played earlier, Eric, talk about how the commissioner doesn't even realize the crimes that have been committed. He doesn't even know the statutes, which I don't believe. I'm sure that he knows. He was supposed to report if there's a loss of data to the U.S. Archives. Last night, U.S. archivist David Ferriero stood under oath and said they committed a crime.
By law,
they absolutely committed a crime, so they do need a special prosecutor to investigate. The New York Times also yesterday, the lead story, the big story on a Monday driving the news cycle, the headline was rotting lettuce, basically. I mean, that's not what it said, but it was about how there's compost issues and kids aren't eating their lettuce, so what are they going to do about it? It is the death of legitimate journalism, and it is telling people in power that, you know what, you can get away with this kind of stuff, and the media is letting them do it.
Let me make sure I understand what you're all saying. There were a group of people at the IRS or maybe the White House who sat down together and said, okay, let's destroy her emails. Let's make sure that the company that provides the email coverage is brought into the conspiracy as well. And then let's make sure that everybody up and down the line at the IRS is in the conspiracy. Do you really believe that?
Yes, I do. Because there are red flags everywhere. When she set up the question, when after she was asked about the emails, they suddenly went away. What a coincidence this is. We have to give up on the media about when it comes to scandals. They've abdicated their spines. But the ultimate consequence to this is you're watching the administration fall apart like a chair under Kirstie Alley's butt because they are immunodeficient. They have no protection. Their arrogance has grown so wildly, they aren't even aware that they're being corrupt. And that's why it's falling apart. And now you're seeing guys that were making fun of Fox News for looking at these scandals. They're always laughing at us who are now going, wow, there's really something stinky here.
And
there's something there.
Yeah. Hey, Dana, the Brain Room did a little research for us, and the IRS scandal. Turns out Broadcast News did 3 minutes and 14 seconds of it in their first week. Yet, if on Bridgegate, Chris Christie did 112 minutes, 23 seconds.
Isn't that incredible?
And it goes on and on and on, not just Broadcast News, as we point out. Today, the day that there's a grilling last night on the Hill, 19 pages before you see it in the New York Times.
And the interesting thing was, it wasn't that the testimony wasn't dramatic or that the hearing wasn't dramatic. It happens in the evening. It would be a little bit, you would think that it could actually find its way into the front page. But I also think that people are getting their news in lots of different ways. And that's the other thing, I think, the reason that the Democrats will find this backfires on them, because people are not, the trust of Congress is lower than just the next one up. The next lowest is the media. So I think that, as Greg said, we probably can't count on them.
Bob, I just want to ask you this. Right. This is the Wall Street Journal, the most conservative newspaper, I guess, in a good way.
I wouldn't call it that.
Says U.S. seeks data and inquiry to Dean Foods, Clorox. All right. I can't find a front page story.
So let me ask you. You say that it's really harebrained to think that there's a conspiracy, but do you think what the odds are that on June 3rd, 2011, Lois Lerner got the email. They got the letter saying, "Show us your emails." 10 days later, her computer crashes. The hard drive goes away. The backup archive company says we lost that period of time. I mean, what's far more unlikely is what they expect us to do.
I think the conspiracy was that my own guess is Lois Lerner and one other person, maybe two, decided to destroy her emails.
For what? What's in them?
But they were lying from the beginning. But somebody also was lying from the beginning. Remember, they said that the whole situation was started by two rogue agents in Cincinnati. That is not true. And that lie had to start somewhere.
Jay Carney started that.
Well, or he got it from somewhere. I mean,
that's where we heard it.
They were visiting the White House. How many times did they visit the White House? And that's why if Republicans were smart, they would, especially in the House of Representatives, they would pass bills to strip the IRS of its enforcement authority on Obamacare, and have Democrats put a vote up, as you pointed out earlier, to defend the IRS in an election year. Have them defend a vote saying, no, the IRS should be able
make them swallow
to enforce the Obamacare mandate.
Outside of the right wing, who do you think really cares about this?
Well, can I ask you something?
That's a damn good point.
It is a good question.
It's a really good question. America should, because the IRS is being used as a coercive force.
I understand.
And the media doesn't care, so it's up to the citizens to act on
this. And the Democrats on the Hill apologized or made a joke of the hearing. There's the problem.
Why is that a problem?
Because the American people deserve more than them apologizing for what could be a corrupt.
Their job is to bend over for a donor.
His polls started to dip when this scandal originally broke last spring. If you look at the start of his nosedive, President Obama's, it was this scandal that started it, because every person fears the IRS in this country.
I agree that there's a scandal here. I just don't agree that it's as widespread as you're suggesting. That's
all right. Well, we'll never. Well, we won't know
until
we find out about the emails.